Brooklyn is one of the cities in the United States controlled by mafia groups, and even the police can't do anything about it. The mafia commits numerous crimes and uses the city for money laundering. Every week, crime money from the mafia is deposited from one bar to another. The bar workers are unaware of these activities and are forced to keep quiet and follow the mafia's orders. One of the bartenders, Bob, has a seemingly ordinary appearance but once worked as a cold-blooded assassin. He now often attends church to seek peace from his past sins that continue to haunt him. One night, after coming home from work, Bob finds an injured dog in a trash can in front of someone's house. As he examines it, the owner of the house, Nadia, addresses him from the back door. Nadia initially suspects Bob is going to rob her house but, upon seeing the injured dog, asks for his ID card and then invites him inside to tend to the dog's wounds. As they enter the house, someone is seen spying on them from afar. Inside, Bob wonders why Nadia uses the back door instead of the front. Nadia explains that she lives alone and worries about being robbed, so she always locks the front door and never accepts guests. Seeing the dog's wounds, which appear to have been caused by abuse, Nadia suspects its former owner is responsible. She suggests Bob take care of the dog since she is busy with her job during the day. Bob, who has never had a dog before, hesitates and asks for 2 days to decide whether to adopt the dog or give it to an animal shelter. The next night, at the back of the bar, Bob asks Marv what he would think if he adopted a dog. Marv replies that a former cold-blooded assassin doesn't seem like a good match for a small dog. They continue working when suddenly, 2 masked robbers appear. Bob notices one of the robbers wearing a distinctive watch. After the robbers leave, Bob and Marv find the bar waiter badly injured. Marv calls an ambulance, and the police arrive soon after. Bob describes the robbers to the police, mentioning the dead watch one of them wore. The following morning at church, Bob keeps thinking about the dog he found and decides to take care of it. He goes to Nadia's house and names the dog Rocco. With no experience in caring for dogs, Bob asks Nadia to teach him. At the pet shop, Nadia helps Bob buy various necessities and make a collar for Rocco. Upon returning from the pet shop, they are spied on again, just like the night they found Rocco. That night, Marv secretly meets with one of the masked robbers from the previous robbery. It turns out Marv was behind the robbery, hiring the criminals to rob his boss's bar due to his gambling debts. Marv is furious at the robbers for their carelessness, which led to the bar waiter being badly beaten and necessitating a call to the ambulance, triggering a police visit. Marv instructs the other robber to tell his accomplice to dispose of the distinctive watch to avoid police detection. A week later, Bob and Marv are cleaning the back of the bar when the mob boss who owns the bar, Chavka, arrives. He has heard about the robbery and is furious. Chavka opens his van's back door, revealing a tortured grunt who betrayed him. He orders Bob and Marv to recover all his money, no excuses or complaints. The next day, while taking Rocco for a walk in the park, Bob meets Nadia. She offers to help take care of Rocco whenever Bob is busy at work. Bob happily accepts, and they exchange cell phone numbers. From that day, their relationship grows closer. Nadia often has lunch with Bob and accompanies him on walks with Rocco almost every day. One afternoon, after Nadia goes home, the mysterious man who had been spying on them finally approaches and greets Bob. The man was Eric. He looked at Bob cynically while complimenting his dog, saying it was very cute, and then immediately left. After Bob returned home, someone suddenly knocked on his door. It turned out to be Eric. Out of the blue, he claimed that Rocco was his dog and even showed Rocco's adoption certificate. Eric threatened that if Bob didn't pay him $10,000 within a week, he would report him to the police for kidnapping Rocco. Before leaving, Eric took Bob's umbrella and threatened that he could take Rocco whenever he wanted, just like he took the umbrella if Bob couldn't provide the money by next week. The next afternoon, while Bob and Marv were cleaning up trash, they found a suspicious plastic bag hanging on the fence. When they checked it, they were shocked to see it was filled with the same amount of money from last week's robbery, along with the dismembered hand of one of the robbers, still wearing a dead man's watch. Confused, Marv ordered Bob to get rid of the hand before the police found out. Inside, Bob looked confident dealing with the situation. A common person would not dare, given his background as a former cold-blooded assassin. He didn't hesitate to wrap the hand in plastic. Just as he finished, Eric suddenly came into the bar and asked for a drink, but Marv immediately kicked him out, saying the bar wasn't open yet. Luckily, Eric didn't see what Bob was doing in the back. Afterward, Marv told Bob to dump the hand in the harbor. He brought Rocco to avoid suspicion. At the harbor, Bob checked around to be safe and dumped the hand when no one was watching. Just as the hand sank, a policeman handling the bar robbery case passed by and greeted him without suspicion. The policeman asked if Bob knew a man named Eric, as Eric was recently in prison for murdering someone at the bar where Bob worked. Unfortunately, Eric had to be released due to a lack of evidence, and the police continued their investigation elsewhere. That night, Marv was seen meeting one of the surviving robbers. Marv offered him a job to rob the bar again, but the robber refused, not wanting a tragic death like his friend. Unbeknownst to the robber, Marv had killed his friend because of Chapka's threat. Marv then explained his plan to escape without Chapka finding out, but the robber still refused. Eventually, Marv had to kill him to keep the robbery plan secret and prevent any information from leaking. After ensuring there were no witnesses, Marv ran away. The next day, Bob went to Nadia's house to leave Rocco before going to work. He told her about Eric claiming to be Rocco's owner. When she heard Eric's name, her expression changed. Bob kept asking about Eric until she got angry and left. At the bar, Bob vented about Nadia. He asked Marv and other bar patrons for advice on handling a sulking woman. They all laughed and said no man could handle a woman in a bad mood. Not long after, Chapka came to the bar demanding the money that was robbed several days ago and informed the bartenders about an upcoming money laundering transaction at the bar in 2 days. When Bob returned home, Nadia was waiting for him. He invited her inside, where she explained everything. Eric was her ex-boyfriend who had traumatized her. To avoid a heartbreaking talk, Bob changed the topic and invited her for a drink. Together, they talked about many things, enjoying the night. Until dawn, Bob talked with Nadia. When he took her home before leaving, she thanked him for the night, even though it was just a casual chat. She appreciated the heartwarming evening. After years of being haunted by guilt, Bob finally smiled again. However, when he returned home, he found the umbrella that Eric had taken the previous day inside Rocco's cage. He realized that while he was with Nadia, Eric must have secretly entered his house. The next morning, feeling that Eric's actions had gone too far, Bob went to Eric's home, which he knew about from Nadia. Eric claimed he just wanted to warn Bob that if he didn't pay by the due date, he would torture Rocco, just like when Bob first found him in the trash. It was clear that Eric didn't care about Rocco at all. His intention from the beginning was to blackmail Bob out of jealousy because he still loved his ex-girlfriend, Nadia. Holding back his anger, Bob said he would pay the ransom at the bar the day after tomorrow. The next morning, Bob found out that Marv was sick and decided to visit him. While sitting on the couch, Marv mentioned that he would need to take another day off, so he wouldn't be there to help Bob with the money laundering transactions at the bar. Bob grew suspicious and asked if Marv still intended to rob the money from the bar again. It turned out Bob already knew that Marv was the mastermind behind the robbery weeks ago but pretended not to know to keep Marv out of trouble. Bob warned Marv to cancel his foolish plan and never underestimate Chapka. Marv had been lucky to avoid trouble before, but no one could predict what would happen next. Surviving Chapka's pursuit was nearly impossible. Unfortunately, even though Marv had been warned, he seemed not to care. Later that day, Marv met Eric, who was eating at a restaurant. Knowing that Eric had been in prison before, Marv offered him a job to help rob his boss's bar tomorrow at 2 p.m. They would definitely be rich if they succeeded. Tempted by the offer, Eric agreed without hesitation. Marv warned him to stay focused on the robbery plan and not to mess around with Bob, as he considered him a dangerous person. The next day, Eric sneaked into Nadia's house. When Nadia got home, she was surprised to see her ex-boyfriend inside. At first, Eric was nice to her. He just wanted to say that he was still in love with her and wanted her back. She kept telling Eric to go away, which made him angry. He forced her to come with him to the bar where Bob worked and told Bob that they were back together so he would leave them alone. Bob was surprised to see Nadia and Eric together but couldn't bother since he had so much to do. He had to serve the patrons as well as take care of the money laundering transaction. Bob tried to hold back his anger seeing Eric, who kept teasing Nadia. Eric then approached Bob and told him that he and Nadia were officially back together. Bob pretended not to care. Meanwhile, Marv waited across the bar for the money laundering transaction to finish. Hours passed, and when the bar was about to close, Eric went out to call Marv. Nadia then explained that she was forced to obey Eric and was threatened with death if she refused. When Eric returned, Bob gave him the ransom he had asked for the whole week, but instead, Eric demanded all of Chapka's money that was in the safe, threatening him with a gun. Strangely, Bob wasn't afraid at all. He looked calm and casually started to tell his dark past as a ruthless mafia. His innocent look now was his penance for his past sins. Every week he diligently attended church to repent and become a better man. Bob felt sorry for Eric. Instead of taking all the ransom money, Eric tried to wake up the sleeping beast inside Bob. Bob shot him to death. Seeing the man she loved kill someone right in front of her, Nadia was shocked. Bob tried to explain everything and asked her to go home. It turned out Chapka already knew Marv's robbery plan all along and had one of his men kill Marv while waiting for Eric to come out of the bar. The man shot Marv on the spot. After cleaning up Eric's dead body, Bob contemplated all he had done. Since the shooting incident, Bob had never seen Nadia again. Even though Chavka had completely promoted Bob to manager of the bar to replace Marv, it didn't make him happy. Every time he washed his hands, he felt the guilt crawling inside him, hurting his heart even more. One day, he couldn't hold his feelings any longer. He visited Nadia because he missed her so much. He asked her to take a walk with him and Rocco. He told her to choose, go inside and prepare herself to walk with him or stay inside and never see him again. She went inside her house without saying a word. Seeing the woman he loved walk away, Bob felt heartbroken. He was afraid that Nadia wouldn't come back, which meant he would have to leave her forever. Bob waited there, standing still, until finally, he heard the sound of Nadia's shoe.